So what is the issue? The issue is many types of interference, right? Improper philosophy of life, which is what the world has been suffering with for a very long time. Personally, I meditate on the Christ principles because they're the only thing I've ever seen that is 100% infallible and true. And if someone is fully fooled and lost in the darkness, the metaphorical darkness of their own ego of consciousness, or you could say worldly consciousness in old biblical terms, that sort of worldly consciousness that does not understand or comprehend spiritual truth is of course subject to every kind of struggle because it believes it's separate, it believes there's a lot to fear. You're not accessing your parasympathetic nervous system when you're living in the ego because the ego is always either eagerly pursuing some sort of superiority, which is not healthy if you've come to observe that and understand those feelings about competitiveness, me versus that, me over you. If you've been in a better place of consciousness, if you've felt a higher truth, if you sat with the presence of the true nature of God, for example, and then you start to slip into that, those feelings of the need to prove yourself, the need to be right, the need to be better, the need to look better, the need to achieve something, or the ego can go the other way into victimhood. Of course, the more you identify with it, the more your nervous system is going to believe it, and the more your nervous system will suffer, and then downstream, of course, all the other systems will suffer. The more you're able to look at it and have compassion on it and understand that that part of your mind is really existing within illusion, and it's not its fault that it falls for these illusions, but you also don't have to actually identify with them. So of course, fruitful spiritual practices, which to me always, the real ones always come back to the same very, very, very simple Christ principles. Oneness, the oneness of all things. Is one drop of water, if you separate it from the sea, is it really not part of the sea anymore? Furthermore, are we really separate, or are we more like bumps or waves on the sea? What did Yeshua say? Not what everybody says for him, but what did he say? I don't judge you, and nor does my Father in heaven judge you. Now again, if you take a mystical, spiritual view of this, and you're able to go inward with it, past your ego self, and just observe that from a safe distance and sit with what it really means, it becomes apparent that those painful delusions of separation, that something is wrong, that you're not part of what's right, that maybe you're bad, maybe somebody else is bad, fear. And no choice or thought or feeling you entertain can be neutral. They are all either feeding life, creation, or they're feeding death, destruction. But these things are painful in your nervous system, okay? Now there are people that sort of become addicted to the outrage, to the constant stress, having something to be upset about. And then if you look at the world's media addictions, it's very apparent that that's what sells, and that's what has been selling to humankind for a long time. So rather than project and blame somebody else, wisdom would say just use it as a reflection of something. Look into that mirror of media and say, well, what is it that's being sold to us there, and why? If you say you don't like the suffering, then become the source of the healing. If you can't tend to your own temple, how is it you're going to tend to anyone else's? Again, that's like trying to dig a tiny little splinter out of somebody else's eyes when you have a log in your own. You're just going to poke their eyes out in the process, and now everybody's blind.